All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our Growing Readers Together Quick Bites presentation. This is our first Quick Bite of the spring, and today we're going to be talking about executive function and learning how to learn. So my name is Kate Bruner, and I am one of the three folks at the State Library involved in the Growing Readers Together grant program. We are a grant initiative that focuses on helping public libraries connect with their family, friend, and neighbor informal caregivers in their communities. So common FFN caregivers we end up working with libraries are like grandparents caring for grandkids, or neighbors trading daycare because they shift work, or teenagers providing summer care for siblings, those sorts of things. So we work to increase FFN caregivers' awareness of all of the amazing resources that are at their disposal in their public libraries, and help libraries conduct successful outreach and then provide services for that community. So today we're going to talk a little bit about executive function in early childhood, and we're going to start with talking about what exactly do we mean when we talk about executive functions. So there are a couple of different definitions of this, and Dr. Adele Diamond is a scholar who has worked extensively in this field, and she refers to executive functions as a family of mental processes. And she says these are the mental processes that you need whenever you can't just go on automatic or follow your intuition or instincts. It's more that you have to be able to stop, think, plan, and then do what needs to be done in whatever situation you're in. And that stop, think, plan, do, stop again cycle is one that reoccurs in a lot of discussions around executive function. Ellen Galinsky is another scholar and author who has written a lot about executive functions, and she refers to them as skills that we use to really pull together all aspects of ourselves. So we're talking about our social selves, our emotional selves, and our intellectual selves, bringing all three of those together in order to manage our attention, our emotions, our behavior, and then be able to do that in pursuit of reaching a particular goal. So executive function is really more about how we learn than what we learn. But mastering that how we learn is necessary because it enables us to master the what. So there are typically three core areas of executive function. And you can see those on this infographic from the Reimagining School Readiness program from the Bay Area Discovery Museum. And they are self-control, also sometimes referred to as inhibitory control, cognitive flexibility, and working memory. And when we talk about self-control, that's not only our bodies, but also like our thought processes, our speech, but our ability to sort of ignore distractions and focus, and then resist our first impulse in order to be able to think about what's happening and make decisions about what we want to do next. Cognitive flexibility allows us to think about a problem from different perspectives. So consider different possible solutions for a problem, or also consider different people's perspectives in a particular situation. And then working memory is what allows us to kind of hold on to information and then manipulate it in our minds as we're working something through, and take something that we're holding on to, a piece of information, and connect it to another piece of information in order to complete a task at hand. So all three of these areas are actually important to bring together, both for school readiness and really life readiness in general. And part of the research that the Bay Area Discovery Museum did when they conducted a literature review was to look at executive function and how it connects to early learning. And they came up with two big ideas. And this is the first one, that these executive function skills, developing them, goes actually beyond regulating our emotions and behavior, but it allows us to then master those early math skills and that emergent literacy. And so it's really crucial to this idea of supporting the content learning that children are doing, in early childhood is to have that executive function skill development happening alongside that in order to fully support that cognitive development. So an executive function learning actually starts at birth, but it's really crucial during that 3 to 5-year-old period as they're getting ready to enter the classroom. But all ages benefit actually, and over the last 10 years there have been several different longitudinal studies and a lot of research that is showing that strong executive function skills are actually predictive of physical health and academic and professional success all the way through adulthood. So everyone benefits. And the good news about executive function skills is that they can be developed, cultivated, and improved through various activities. And Dr. Diamond talks about this in her work a great deal. She says this happens best when they are not just used, when children are given the opportunity to use those executive function skills, but when they meet challenges, when they're challenged to use them and expand on their abilities and develop those executive function skills. So that's why it's so beneficial to build executive function skill development into our programming and in the library. And there's a really wonderful book from Ellen Galinsky called Mind in the Making, where she takes executive function and sort of centers it in early learning and then connects it to all these other aspects of early learning and pulls out what she calls 7 life skills that are critical for young children to develop. And so you can see those 7 life skills here. And within that resource, Mind in the Making has also become a Bezos Family Foundation program, so there's a website as well. And I'll share some resources for that in just a minute. But within that book, within these resources, like there are concrete ways that she suggests to develop these particular skills. And so when we're talking about focus and self-control, we're talking about being able to pay attention and remember rules or instructions, to think flexibly and to exercise self-control or impulse control. So like that's kind of pulling from all those different domains of executive function that we talked about earlier. And so with perspective taking, the second skill, she wants children to go a little bit basically beyond empathy to think about not only how are others feeling in those situations, but what they might be thinking, and to be able to be open to other people's perspectives, their peers, their parents, their teachers as well. And Galinsky argues that children who can take others' perspectives are also much less likely to get involved in conflicts in their learning environments as well. And then communication, she talks about, it's not just language, speaking, reading, and writing, like the literacy skills that we talk about, but also being able to figure out what you want to communicate and how that communication might be understood by others. And then in making connections, this also comes back to that being that cognitive flexibility piece and working memory, the ability to hold on to what you're pieces of what you're learning and then try to make connections between them as you look at them from different perspectives. This also connects into the critical thinking piece of it so that they can evaluate what they're holding on to in their working memory as they look at it from different perspectives using their cognitive flexibility. And then Galinsky also says that we should be encouraging children to take on challenges because that's where that learning is happening. Again, in play-based ways and in developmentally appropriate ways. But them being willing to or open to taking on challenges and bringing those executive function skills they're developing to a challenge, helps them do better in school and in life in general. And then pulling all of that together, we're looking to help these children cultivate becoming self-directed, engaged learners. So there are a few different suggestions I'm going to make about building executive function skills with the library. But I just also wanted to take a moment and see if anyone in particular is already building this into your programming, and if you would like to share in the chat different ways that you're doing that. What sort of activities that you're doing in your programming for young children that are helping them build executive function skills, or any resources that you're offering caregivers in order to help them with this. So I'll take just a moment and see if anyone has anything to share in the chat. I can see a couple people are typing. So. Songs and rhymes. Yeah, head, shoulders, knees, and toes is great. And that helps them like follow instructions, right? So they get to practice that as well. And songs and rhymes in general help with working memory a great deal. Yep, and then helping those little asides for parents and caregivers, like helping them understand why we use songs and rhymes or why we use different pieces in our early childhood programming can help them like carry those practices home, right, into the home environment and continue to strengthen those skills. Yeah, free songs are great. Those are wonderful for that inhibitory control, that self-control piece. Lots of fun. Okay, so here's some other suggestions. You can keep adding them in the chat as well. So think about using like what if prompts or what comes next prompts. These kind of help them think through like that stop, think, plan, do cycle, but then also help them with that cognitive flexibility piece. So if you ask, what if like this character in the book chose to do this instead? Or what if we tried this? Or those sorts of things that let them sort of think through alternatives as well are helpful. And then lots of different games like free songs, like Nancy mentioned, are great. So other stop-start games or stop-start songs where kids have to stop and start moving and kind of control their bodies and control their singing and control their words, that sort of thing. And then peg tapping is actually, you can do this in a lot of different ways, but it actually comes from a particular study in which what researchers did was had children, they would tap a peg once with their finger and the child would be instructed, if the researcher taps once, the child taps twice. And then if the researcher taps twice, the child taps once. And so you can play that like with shaker eggs or you could like wiggle scarves, like anything that you can do that sort of replicates that so that they actually have to like stop and think for a minute, like, okay, they tapped once, so I tapped twice, or they shook the egg once, so I shake my egg twice. Like that gives them that like moment of processing and the working memory of remembering the instruction for that as well. And then sorting games as well, especially asking them to sort the same set of things, but two different ways. So if you had cards with like shapes that were all different colors on them, you could ask them to sort them by shape, and then you could ask them to sort the same cards again by color. And so again, it's practicing that sort of working memory with the instructions, and then the cognitive flexibility of looking at like a data set two different ways, basically. And then Joyce mentioned asking how they think a character is feeling. Can help with perspective taking, absolutely. Talking about feelings, naming emotions, like giving kids that emotional vocabulary and then talking about that. Again, kind of helps them with inhibitory control even, because they're able to like name and express their feelings in more productive, concrete ways. And then also with that perspective taking as well, with the cognitive flexibility piece. And then Dr. Diamond is a big fan of including storytelling opportunities, both us telling stories to children and giving children the opportunity to tell us stories. She really feels like this is a profound tool for working memory in particular, because when you do storytelling, they maybe don't have the same visuals as when you're doing a read aloud. And so there's lots of valuable learning that happens when we do read alouds, but there's also this opportunity to really connect with the executive function development with working memory when we do storytelling. And then having kids tell us stories as well allows them to sort of think through and put a story in order. Also, puzzles are really helpful, again, any sort of puzzle type project or activity. And practicing mindfulness. So deep breathing, yoga, like any yoga poses, any sorts of pieces of mindfulness that you work into your programming also help support executive function development with kids. So there are a couple of resources, well, 3 resources in particular I wanted to highlight today if you want to learn more. Dr. Adele Diamond, as I said, is a scholar who has done a great deal of work with executive function, and she has heaps of YouTube videos, actually. This one in particular is really great. It's a 23-minute sort of think like TED Talk sort of flavor to it, talk about executive functions and ways to support executive function development, why it's important. She also shares a couple of really just adorable videos and uses humor as well to sort of share what she's getting at and what her research is showing. So I highly recommend that one in particular, but there are lots of available videos, and she's written a great deal on this topic as well. So that's one resource. And then also Lisa from Denver Public Library did a great hour-long CSL in Session webinar on this in 2021. And in that particular webinar, she also breaks down suggestions for developing executive function by age group. So birth to 18 months, toddlers, preschoolers, and school age as well is talked about. So there is an archive of that webinar that's available on Libraries Learn, and it's definitely worth your time. And then also Ellen Galinsky's Mind in the Making, which goes in depth into those 7 essential life skills. And in each chapter for each skill, she offers 10 concrete suggestions for parents, caregivers, and educators, and that could be easily used and adapted in the library as well to foster those particular skills. So Mind in the Making also has a website at this point, and a resource that I want to highlight from the website is their book tip sheets. So they have skill building book tip 1-page handouts that are downloadable for free in English or Spanish for a variety of titles, picture books, early chapter books, and some juvenile fiction as well. And so those are printable, those are available for free to anyone who wants to use them. And so you can print those out, you can distribute those, you can use some of the tips in your programming. There are lots of different resources there, and they've got a pretty good collection of popular picture books and all the way through junior fiction. So definitely check out those printables. If you don't look at anything else on that website, look at the skill building book tip sheets, because those are really great. So does anyone have any questions today? My contact information is on there. If you want to talk more about this, I'd be happy to connect with you about particular ideas you have for your library or ways that you're looking to foster this further, or leads on the research around this. However I could support you in learning more about this if you would like. So, and if you have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. Well, there's some great suggestions from Melanie as well. Playing games and story time. Yep, memory games are great. Okay, well, thank you all for logging in today for a quick bite. And next week, Claudette will be here from Loveland Library, I think with Melody, and they're going to talk about supporting your Spanish-speaking caregivers in your community. So same time, noon Mountain Time again, next Tuesday. So, and if you are willing to, please take the time to complete this short survey, and we use this feedback to design our future Quick Bite opportunities.